I am Marie and I'm with my colleague Mark. We are M&M and we work as a Braille expert for the LEGO Foundation. I'm sure some of you already know us, and we have with us experts from other countries. So while people are joining, I love to know where you are from and maybe hear a little bit about the weather where you are. I was saying to Mark and Gorette that it is sunny here in the south of France. So we have Qatar. I hope you have sun too.
Yeah.
I have sun, but I also have snow. It's white outside. How about you? Mark, do you have snow, sun?
No, it's cold but sunny.
Okay, so we have Canada with light snow. Okay, who else? Belgium, it's quite gray. I'm sorry for you. We have Germany, November weather. We have lots of people from UK. It seems to be sunny in Lisbon, Portugal. It's cold and gray in UK. Sorry for you. Okay, so we have lots of people from Europe, even people from France. Do you know we have live sessions in French 1 hour before this one? So this one is in English, the previous one was in French. So you're gonna excuse us if sometimes there is a French word coming out of our mouth. And we have also Alison. Welcome, Alison. We have Toronto. We have Ilse. And we have
a lot of people from the US.
Yes, Texas. Ooh, and it's icy and cold.
Icy and cold in Texas? No, that's not possible.
No, we're going to be in Texas in 1 month and we don't want ice or cold, only sun and warm. So I'm not alone. I'm with Mark, but also with a dear friend, Gorette. Hi, Gorette.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
And Gorette is from Portugal, Lisbon. So we have another also expert invited, and it is Melissa. But Melissa is from Australia. And if I'm correct, it's 2 a.m., so 2 in the morning for her. So we gave her the right to stay quiet in bed, and she sent video. So you will see her in video that she shooted especially for this live session, and she is sleeping. I hope she's sleeping well. So Melissa, she will introduce herself in video. You will see who she is. And she is working also with our partner in Australia, Vision Australia. And Gorette, you are a teacher for the visually impaired in Portugal, in Lisbon. You work with children from 6 to 16, but most of your students are between 6 and 9 years old.
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to present with Mark many different activities, fun and funny activities about math. Mark, are we ready to start?
Yeah, because we have so many things to present. So yeah, I think it's time to present. But I really like to read on the chat where people are coming from. That's a worldwide webinar.
Sophia from Athens is here also. Oh, sorry, we don't have closed caption for this one. I'm sorry for the people in the US. We will try to have that specific code for the next live session. We don't have them right now. We can just say that the session is recorded. You will find a replay available on our YouTube channel as soon as it will be ready. And we will work on these credits for next sessions. But if you join us in our US tour somewhere, you will be able to find the ACV or EP, something like that. Go, Mark, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's not my turn to speak. Maybe we can let Melissa introduce herself and present maybe the first activity so that we start by her and we come back with Gorette in a few minutes.
Okay, so Melissa did 4 different videos, and this is the first one. She is sitting in front of her desk and she will present herself and the first activity she has.
Hello, my name is Melissa Fanshawe and I'm coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. I work at the University of Southern Queensland. I work in the School of Education and I teach our pre-service teachers how to teach maths to students in their classroom. But I'm also a trained teacher of students with vision impairment. So I've been loving using the LEGO Braille Bricks to try and introduce topics for our students and to help them make meaning of some maths concepts. The first thing I'd like to show you today is the concept of part-part-whole. Now, part-part-whole is one of the first understandings that students have of number, and it helps them to understand that number is not just a symbolical concept, but it's actually broken up into different things. So for example, the number 10 could actually be 2 and 8, or it could be 5 and 5. And that's really important for our basic understanding of number and having flexibility of number when we're doing equations and those sorts of things. So the first thing I'd like to show you, I'm just going to move my screen down to my LEGO Braille Bricks base plate. Now, on my LEGO Braille Bricks base plate, I actually have a double number symbol. And that is when I do that, it's representing to the students that I work with that I'm using, everything on this board is going to be number. And it's like having your caps lock on, I guess, on the computer. So I've got caps lock on, everything on here is going to be number. Now, I feel that it's very important before we actually teach the symbolic nature of number that students have an understanding of real life items and what it is. So in this activity that I'm doing, it's about partitioning number. And I have the number 20 at the top of my LEGO Braille Bricks base plate. And I want students to work out how many different ways can we break up 20? What can we do to do that? And so firstly, I'm actually going to use some real life manipulatives, and that helps them understand that 20 isn't just this symbolic figure, but it is representing real life. So I have some little figurines and they're of different people that could be in my classroom. And I'm going to work out how I can put 20 into some groups. So I get the students to play with the 20 little figurines and we can break them up into some groups. So I might have, for example, I might have 1 in one room and 19 in the other. And so then I get the students to represent that using the LEGO Braille Bricks. So I have 1 and 19. So one way we can partition 20 is to have 1 and 19. So as students get more familiar with this and they could do 2 and 18, they could do 10 and 10, and they could have the different students in the different groups and they represent those then with the LEGO Braille Bricks. I then start to go to, could we actually have them in more rooms? So in this one, we had 3 in one room, 4 in another room, 4 in another room, and 9 in the other. So then students can represent this with 3 and 4 and 4 and 9. But partitioning is a really important concept that we need students to understand so that they can understand numeracy. It does help them a lot with number and number understanding, as well as that flexibility when they go into operations, because then that they can work out if they're adding a number, they can go, oh, 20 is actually 1 and 19, I could add on 3. So it really is a wonderful opportunity to help students have the LEGO Braille Bricks because they can use them flexibly. It's like using a notepad where they can write down the different ways that they can make the number 20.
That's always interesting to listen to Melissa. And maybe just one thing also that is interesting about this video, in fact, she is using minifigures, but not Lego minifigures. And that's something very important for us. We really want people not to just focus on Lego things, but you can use LEGO Braille Bricks with any kind of other tools. And that's also where the magic starts. And maybe one more thing about a presentation. The way also for her, it seems to be natural, the way she presents the activity, so that we have 20 and how can we reach 20? So we have really multiple possibilities. And that's really interesting because usually at school we can ask 5 plus 5 equal, and people have only one answer. And here, just turning the question in another way, it really then opens all the possibility, and all the children can have a lot of answers.
So
Maybe
do we go
yeah.
to the next activity
Yeah.
with our expert from Portugal?
Yeah.
I'm not the expert.
You are.
You are.
Oh, thank you. Well, I present a magic square that Mark will give us an example. Well, the magic square is a game where the square is divided in 9 equal spaces, and which the goal is to distribute the numbers in the way that the sum of those numbers in each line, diagonal, or column is 15. We can see through the image like that there are spaces that there's no number. Mark, can you give an example, please?
Yeah, and maybe just also a few words. So on the screen, if some of you are partially sighted or cannot have access to the screen, we have, as Gorette explained, a square with included in the square 9 little squares. But also we have a number brick indicator placed on the base plate, saying that something that we have to discuss with the children, saying, okay, this means that everything that will be on the base plate will be numbers. And in Melissa's video, she has decided to put 2 signs, so that's more in respect of Braille, we can say, if you put 2 of them. But you can also decide to place 1 on the table, for example.
We already have 2 questions, Mark, and I think you answered the first one about when introducing the number concept, do you use the numeric indicator? Yes. And the second one is, looks like they are not in MS code.
Yeah, in fact, it's UEB. Everything about LEGO Braille Bricks, as it is an international concept, is UEB. And some countries are using NEMETS, others are not, and really that's available in a lot of languages, so that's why everything is UEB and only UEB. Yeah, and about just last thing about the number sign, as you can see on the picture, Gorette, I've added it to indicate that the number to reach is 15, but also it's not very fun if you place it every time, everywhere. So that's why it's great to place it somewhere once. And what do we have on the little box, Gorette, in the black box?
And the black box is the numbers that we have to complete the square.
Okay, so you have prepared everything for the child. That's
Yes.
the activity you prepared, and you give that to the child.
Yeah. And the numbers is 1 to 9, and children used all numbers. And I complete the square, and I retired. I don't put three numbers.
Yeah.
And ask, okay, if you have 9 plus 2 is 11, okay, how much we need to 15? And children have to calculate the number to 15.
Yeah, great. So they have to find strategies in order to succeed in the activity.
In different ways and different numbers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
we have already another question, Mark, and go ahead. Someone is asking, how do you make the black lines? And I think, Mark, you have also built yours.
Yeah. So maybe, Gorette, you can answer the question.
Yes. I use jumping clay. Is a mass that is very fluffy and dry in air. I use too many in all that I do, I use this
Like
path.
Play-Doh which can dry.
Yeah. It's jumping clay. You can find.
Okay. And I use another thing, like, you know, those little flat Lego, and if I place them, I have prepared, that's exactly the same example, but then, so you have, in fact, all those little lines that are easy to fill. And I also make this suggestion, in fact, not to make, you know, the big square, because you can use the base plate as a big square, because sometimes it can be difficult for a child to find exactly where to, this is 1, 2, 3, for example, and where, and to move from a space to another. But that's good, of course, to not stick to only one possibility, and really, so we have Gorethe's possibility, you have my possibility, and you, of course, can invent your possibilities. And that's nice not to do always the same with the child, so that they are not stick to only one way of doing. That's great to open their imagination and also skills.
We have the next activity with Melissa about algebra that is coming on the screen.
Okay, now in this activity, we're going to do some algebra. And when people hear the word algebra, they sometimes get a little bit stressed about maths. But I'd like to show you how we can make it really fun for our students. Now, I have a box, and in my box is a number, but I cannot show you because it is my mystery box. What is inside my mystery box? I don't know, but we do have a clue. Now, on my LEGO Braille Bricks base plate, I have the double number system, so I'm keeping everything up in capitals or in number lock, as I like to say. And I have this mystery box, and what is going to be inside it? We don't know, but we have a clue. The box plus 2 equals 7. All right, so the box plus 2 equals 7. So this is the beginning of algebra. Now, we don't know what's in the box, but it's too hard to hold the box here. So we can represent it either by using an X or a Y. So we can choose one or the other of those. Now, I will tell the students we do have the double number lock, but this is a variable, so we're just going to put that there for now. Okay, and sometimes we do need to tell them, we need to explain what it is, but it helps to make sense. Now, this activity is actually very useful for all of our students in our classroom. So we have 7, okay, and we have the mystery box, and the mystery box plus 2 equals 7. How are we going to work this out? Now, algebra is like having a balance scheme. And if you have 1 on one side, it must be on the other. And I am demonstrating using a rod, and it is going up and down. But in algebra, we need to have it balanced. So if we do something to one side, we've got to do it for the other. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to isolate the y. So I want to find out what y is. And it's here, it's got y plus 2. So I'm trying to work out what it is, plus 2. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away 2, because if I've got plus 2 and I take away 2, I have 0. But if I do that, it's not going to be equal. So I have to do the same to the other side. So I'm going to take away 2 from here. So I'm going to take away 2. Okay, but that means I also have to take away 2 from the other side. So 7 take away 2 is 5. Okay, so I'm going to take away 2 from both sides, and I have 5. Let's just check if this makes sense. I had 7 altogether, and y plus 2 equals 7. So y plus 5. So that's looking good so far. Let's have a look. And the number is 5 in my mystery box. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make algebra fun. What I love about the LEGO Braille Bricks for algebra is that students can manipulate, because when they're using a Perkins Brailler, I've seen some students braille out this equation, and by the time they've finished brailing out the equation, they've kind of forgotten what was there and they've had to do the next line, and it just becomes so complex. There's a lot of cognitive load on the student when they're doing algebra. But by using the LEGO Braille Bricks, students are actually able to manipulate and to feel the numbers and to be able to explore what those numbers can be. So that's why I love using the LEGO Braille Bricks for algebra.
Thank you again, Melissa. I think it's always fun, the activity she's inventing. While we were watching Gorette and Mark, there was also other comments saying that if you travel, you can also make the grid for your activity, Gorette, using Wikistick. You know, these that you can easily use, or classic Play-Doh.
Yeah, and just to answer the question also that we have about what an activity that can resemble this one and can be played. So we have Sudoku, but we also have tic-tac-toe. That is a great activity where you can understand how to go from one square to another. So of course, we can make a lesson plan with all those activities.
That was a question not just for us, Mark, maybe not in the chat, but someone was asking if we can use Sudoku or another activity looking like that.
Okay.
So we can share the next activity that you have. Go ahead, and Mark.
It's about symmetry.
Yeah. Okay, using Lego, we can enable the child to build, recognize, and analyze the properties of geometric objects, identify the symmetry axis that could make the student able to understand the concept of area, volume, and make measurement. The sense of orientation and space are fundamental not only in the geometric and mathematical reason, but also in essential skills for children with visual impairment, like we know. And with this activity, child is the activity result for a child with visual impairment, like I said. Mark, can you help me?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, what is great with this activity is that, of course, it's an activity that we have to do at school because it is in the mainstream curriculum. So that's really important. And also that's really difficult if you don't use the correct tool, the good tool. To be able to do that in a tactile way is really, really challenging. And here, what I like on the screen, so you have the white line with only number signs that represent the lines, the axis, in fact. And also it can be confusing for some children because they can imagine that it is a whole representation, and they also have to double to make the symmetric of those lines. So that's why usually teachers can use classic Lego so that you know that it is the axe and nothing else, or you can decide to make longer lines and go really from the top of the base plate to the bottom of it, so that we are sure that it is the axe, it is a line that we are not going to deal about the symmetric activity. And also what is great with that is that you can start where you want, from the bottom or at the top, and one by one, usually you decide you have first to find out which brick it is. For example, it's H brick to start. So you have to find H brick, and then you have to place it correctly. So that's multiple task activity, so quite difficult, and it is an activity that maybe a 10-year-old or 11-year-old can do, but before it can be easier if you use and decide to use any kind of bricks, so you don't have to look for the correct brick. But that's really a nice activity, and we have tried that in mainstream schools with a lot of other students, and they understood what is symmetry with the LEGO Braille Bricks.
I can give an example. In
Yeah.
this I use to do the axis Lego dots.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's really imaginative because you have a good axe, easy to feel.
Yeah.
And also it resembles a butterfly at the end. So that's really, really a great example, this one. And also, maybe Marie, if you can go back to, the slide. Also, what is great here in those activities, you can either start with half of the pattern and then rebuild the second half, but you can also build a symmetric pattern and ask the child to put a wiki stick or whatever they want to propose where the angle will be. So you can start with a rectangle or a square and ask them to place all the axes that are possible. So it's also a good way not only to build, but also to learn and to read the drawings.
When I started symmetries with children, I try to the child should visualize and understand what we want them to do. So I suggest that we give them some previously done objects to fill, and then we can make half of the picture and asking the child to complete in a way that stays symmetrical according to the direction, the number of the pieces, like you said, Mark. I don't know if my English.
Yeah, that's great. And also one thing, because everything so far, we can see that the color are important in those examples. But of course, if we decide to use any kind of bricks, then it can be with multiple colors, and we don't care about colors. So both are possible. And once again, it's really important to mix activities and not to propose always the same. So that's why you have here variety of axes, variety of patterns, variety of bricks, and whatever. And then when they are ready with that, and they can, if they make a mistake, they can remove the brick and replace it. That's also something they cannot do on a piece of paper, for example.
Yes, I don't always do only with the children with visual impairment. I try to do sometimes with the class of the children, and these photos are from the class.
Yeah, and that's great, because LEGO Braille Bricks is really an inclusive tool, and it's great that everyone in this class can use the same tool. So that's great.
Okay, so we have people saying that for transfer activity, you can also use Braille graph paper. So like you said, Mark, maybe not only the Braille Bricks, but something else. Someone is asking, where do we get the divider for the Braille box? So you have many different possibilities to make them yourselves. If you join the online course we have on Future Learn, you will find many ways to do it. And we have someone saying great ideas. And I think we still have our friend from Australia with new video.
Yeah. And probability and statistics.
Ooh. With Melissa, it's going to be fun.
Now, lucky last activity today is I'm going to show you an activity which is about probability and statistics, because we've used our LEGO Braille Bricks a lot to show number, and I think that's really important because we need them to understand the place value and the partitioning of numbers, and that's something that LEGO Braille Bricks can do, and the manipulation through algebra. But another thing that I really like to use LEGO Braille Bricks for is for probability and statistics. So I'm going to show you an activity that I do in my classroom. So this activity was set up for one of my students who is totally blind, because I do have a few students who can see colours. And in this activity, they actually would have been able to do it if they could see colours. But what actually they were going to do is, all of the students in my class had a little bag of Skittles, and we were looking at a content description in our Australian curriculum, which looks at how we can do a trial, and as we do more trials, the actual probability becomes closer to the expected probability. So that's what we were doing. And, you know, some people can do this activity with blocks or with M&Ms or with Smarties, but I've chosen Skittles. And what the students are going to do is they're going to open up their packet of Skittles and they're going to look at the colours, and they're actually going to graph those colours so that they can see which ones are most likely and least likely. So I have cut open my Skittles packet and I have made a graph of this particular Skittles packet. And all in all, I have 2 brown, 5 red. I don't have 5 red. I only have 4 red, 4 yellow, 4 orange, and 1 green. So there's 3 colours that have equal amounts. And this packet had 15 Skittles in it. So this activity would be really quite good for a student with low vision, that they could use this and they would be able to graph those out. And in a moment, we're going to represent this in another graph, but I'm going to show you what I would do for a student with no vision in my classroom. So what I have done is I have opened up the Skittles packet before our lesson and I have represented the colours. I've actually represented the colours O for orange on here. I've got an O because there's orange. I've got an R for red, a B for brown, etc. But it actually doesn't matter so much because my student can't see the colour, but rather that there are different bricks in here. So I get them to bring them out and to start graphing them for me, and I'll show you that. So my LEGO Braille Bricks base plate, I pull out my first letter and it is a O, okay. I then have a B, so it goes separately. Another O, so this time it goes on top of the other O. Oh, another O. Okay, so we're getting lots of O's here. And I then have a G. Okay, and then a Y. And then I have another Y, so I can put that on top. Another Y. Oh. I have a G. Oops. Sure it's like pushed down properly. And I have a O. Okay, so that can go in a new column, making sure that we start them all along the same bottom line so that we can measure them all to the top to compare. We have another G. Oh, okay, my packet was very interesting too. We have an R, which we haven't had before, and we have a B. So in this packet of Skittles, we had 3 orange, we had 2 blue, we had 3 green, 3 yellow. Oh, look at that. I've got the orange in the wrong spot, okay, which is a good learning, okay, and a red. So that means in my packet, I actually only had 13 Skittles, and that definitely brings a conversation in the classroom. So remember, if you do this game, you actually have to have additional packets of Skittles to share them out for your students, and my student will get their packet of Skittles as well to be able to eat. And then we can start conversations about them. And then what I made all my other students do is I got them to actually graph these Skittles using a graph as well out of the LEGO Braille Brick. So now what I'm showing you is I've actually made, or the students can make the graph from their Skittles and put it beside the other student, or you can have them on 2 base plates and then they can compare. So we have the same O for orange, we have the same B for blue, or I think it was actually brown, which doesn't really matter for B. This one had 4 R's or reds, and this one only had 1. And remember that this one had 2 more in the packet. So we can start looking at comparisons and some data analysis with our LEGO Braille Bricks. And it is a really, really great way to construct graphs, but also to be able to compare graphs. And it is tactile, so, you know, we can obviously feel along the top, feel which one has the most, which one has the least. This other person's packet had more colours in it. And then what I do for the final part is the pairs can actually put their graphs together, because we're trying to see if you have more in the trial, does the predicted probability become closer to the expected probability? So we can make that into a whole graph together, and they can now compare their graph together where they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the O for orange. And the least is a tie between the brown and the green, or the B and the G, which had 4 each. So this helps the 2 people together to be able to join in and to be able to look at this problem together collaboratively. And then now in my classroom, we go off and this group of 2 finds another group of 2, and we then compare those graphs. So a really cool activity that we would do in a classroom anyway, that helps with probability, because students can feel that tactile graph, but they're not just being given that graph. They're actually having active participation in constructing the graph as well, and to be able to compare and to feel and look at those comparisons in the graphing. So thank you very much for listening to me for some of the maths activities that I've been trialling, and I look forward to hearing all of the ones that you have been trialling also.
Okay, so while Melissa was explaining her activity, I wanted badly to have some Skittles close to me, but no. And we have many different suggestions on how to use other kind of candies, or even build some raised or puffy numbers in 3D. Maybe we can use your Play-Doh. Go ahead for that. So many different things in the chat. Mark, I think we still have one video from Melissa.
Yeah, because she has presented 3 activities, so that are classroom activity, but she make a distinction between a learning through play activity and a math game. And she said that she likes to finish a day with one fun activity that is just maybe more than a game. And that's what she explained in the last video.
Now, after my students have been busy doing lots of work and they have gained 3 little mini action figures, I like to play a game with them. And that is just to break up the working, but also to be able to have fun, to be able to work together, to be able to play, and to have a lot of joy with what we're doing with maths. And I also want them to see how maths is used in real life, to be able to interact with other people. So the activity that I'm going to show you today is very much based on dominoes. And that is because you can have 2 players, you can have 3 players, you can have 4 players, but it's just a little twist to that. And I guess the reason that I love this activity is it stemmed from one that Mark actually showed me, where he plays this game called Battleships, and the students put forward a number each, and the biggest one gets to keep them all. Well, this one is very similar, but it is based on, as I said, dominoes. Now, at the beginning, or at the front of the screen, I have actually randomly, out of the bowl, you have selected 7 numbers. So you have a 3, a 1, an 8, a 9, a 5, an 8, and an 8. So you did pretty well there with some big numbers, but that may not help you in this game. All right, and I also have 7 numbers selected. Now, the reason that I have not put these down onto your numbers down onto the board is because I'm going to spin the board in this game. And if you have a lazy Susan, that is fabulous for this activity, but if not, you can just spin the board. So that is fine. Now, in this activity, the first person is going to start, and you're lucky because you've got a big hand to start. I don't know how that's going to go all the way to the end, but anyway, let's have a go. Now, you probably noticed that I haven't done one thing. Okay, I haven't set up my game board with the double number system, which means that everything now going onto it is a number. So let's start with a number 9. Okay, now in this activity, to make the dominoes go with the number 9, my side or my turn, what I actually have to do is try and find something that makes up 9. So I have 6, 6 and 3. So I'm going to put 6 and 3 after the number 9. Okay, so 9 is 6 plus 3. And then it's now your turn, and you have to make up the number 3. Now, I could have been a bit nicer and put 3 and then 6, because making up 6 would be slightly easier than making up 9, but I wasn't, so it didn't happen. So you have to make up 3. But fortunately for you, you have 8 minus 5. You have an 8 and a 5, so you could do 8 minus 5, which then made 3. Now, you can, as I said, put your board on a lazy Susan, or I've just put it back onto my slope board, and then it's easy to pass between people because they do want it up the right way. If you've got 2 people sitting across from each other, it makes it a little bit hard when one's upside down trying to read their LEGO Braille Bricks. But this can be played by 4 players, 5 players, however many players you want to play. So that person went 3 is 8 minus 5. So I've got 5. Oh, I've actually got 5 times 1. So you can do any multiplication that you like. It could be any operation. It could be multiplication, division, anything you like to make the previous number. And that's how we can play LEGO Braille Bricks domino in our classroom.
Okay.
Great.
So, lots of great ideas. I can see that you, Mark and Goret and I, we are smiling. I can read in the chat that you enjoy most of these activities, all these activities, and time flies. So we only have 2 minutes. Mark, Goret, do you have something else you would like to share just before we close, while I will add some informations in the chat?
Maybe not, just as a conclusion, I think that doing math with Melissa and Gorete can be fun, and I'm sure that a lot of students will, even if they are not visually impaired, would have been better and would have better results having fun doing math.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. So in the chat, I'm adding for you the email if you want to write us, info@legobraillebricks.com. We know that some of you are already part of the Facebook community. If it's not the case, you can join us. You will see that it's a closed group, so you need to answer a few questions. So we're sure that you are you can be part of this group, and we want to avoid people trying to sell things or waste our time. So you just have to answer a few questions, and then we know who you are, and we will allow you to enter the group. So once again, I'm going to put the YouTube link, so you will be able to see all the recording from the previous sessions and also this one as soon as we have it. And next month will be daily living activities. It will be March the 6th. Mark and I, we will be in New York for our US tour, but we will be online for this session. So I hope you'll join us. And we also have the link on the website for all the sessions to register and to find the replay.
And just maybe a last thing about the future live session. We will have 2 guests, one from the US and one from Denmark. So once again, it's a worldwide community.
Yeah. Yes, so we also plan to be in Africa. We are doing a few pilots in Africa. And for the moment, we will spend the full month of March traveling in the US. We have lots of different events in many different countries. And Africa will be after March. So thank you, Gorette, for being with us. Thank you, Melissa, for the lovely video and the great ideas. Thank you, Mark, for always smiling.
And thank you, Mary.
And see you in 1 month.
Yeah.
For next live session.
Bye.
Bye.